those bands that tend to confuse journalists. I've read one review of your album saying that you sound like the Osmonds, and the review of your shows saying you sound like the Buzzcocks. And between the Buzzcocks and the Osmonds, there is a little bit of a gap.
It must be because we did
Crazy Horses.
yeah, Crazy Horses. And what do I get? Yeah.
When it's quite good that really anyway, because like I said, there's such a big vast difference between those two sort of bands. Probably at one extreme we've got a punk influence, at one extreme we've got the 70s glam influence, but right in the middle of all that you've got we could influence, you know, you've got Elvis Presley, you know, Sonic Youth, Patsy Cline, Clannad, Philip Glass, Tackhead.
It's a pretty good variety.
So
yeah.
I can vibe with that. Two bands I'm not particularly into, but I find that a compliment.
Did you read that?
I didn't see the Osmonds. No, I didn't.
It was I think was it Sounds, I think.
Was it Sounds?
Review of the live album.
Yeah, we did in. I think Craig the drummer got on the phone to him and Sounds is actually being took out of business now because of.
Yeah, I know.
Because they said that, you know. But I don't think it's a big thing, you know.
Yeah. But do you tend to confuse people?
Not deliberately. What it is as a band, we see no boundaries to our music. We see no categories or stereotypes that fit, that are like flexible to encompass how you can describe our music. So you see, there's a conflict between us and journalists, because journalists are trying to pin you down and put you in categories and say you will be this. They try and write you down in stone what you are, and we're not like that. We're a band, and we're imaginative enough and humorous enough to like shake off chains. We can't really be described. You can't say we are like the Monkees, because we're not like the Monkees. You can't say that we're. I mean, any comparison,
of course,
any comparison is going to be irrelevant because it doesn't encompass what we are. We're in Spiral Carpets.
Well, you said that in that select interview that you know, the crowd gets bored very easily, so you have
for any audience, the crowd gets bored. Yeah.
So you have to keep them.
But not just the audience in a venue. The audience everywhere. Period gets. You know, you have to. We've got a lot of strings to our bow. We're 5 individuals in the band. There's not just one person who's the face, and we write a lot of songs. We're quite prolific, and we do a lot of concerts, and so we can never. We're not going to fashion ourselves to fit in with the way that the music industry or the music press wants to review bands. There's a lot more to us than there's perceived, which is fine. You only have a problem when there's less to a band than it's perceived. You know, this is never a problem if there's more to a band.
Well, I've never seen you live, but do you think a 13-minute song that can bore people?
No, I think perversely a 13-minute song can be extremely dynamic, because we're in a position where we grew quite quickly in 89 and 90, and we've been around for like 4 or 5 years. But we grew quite quickly, so it was quite clever doing a song where everyone was getting in on it as a new song. So even your most ardent fan or even your newest convert was in an equal position. And you know, playing live, it's not about it's about creating something special that's never been made before. You know, it's not about reproducing just what's on the records. It's about creating a special moment, and that moment shouldn't be constrained by what, you know, a journalist will say. You can judge. You know, I mean, like no one says about the Sistine Chapel, oh, he started at one place, oh, he should have stopped because he went on too long. No one says about the Bible, oh, we only read the first. No, you only read the Old Testament because it goes on a little bit too long. It takes more than 13 and a half minutes to read. So, like, to judge a record by a material facet of it, like how long it lasts if you time it. I'm not criticising you. I'm not criticising you at all. What I'm saying is actually very, very funny, because people attack us for being material. They attack us for being materialistic. Well, that is the most materialistic way of judging a record, by how long it is, because it isn't boring at all. Well, it isn't boring for me. And you know, people are into that song. I'm not. You haven't played the song live yet, obviously, because of the new album. We have actually. We've been playing it for about a year now, and the reaction to
I've never seen you.
But there's a live video out that we did at G-Max in Manchester, and that song is quite captivating, really, because it's a song where the audience and the band are kind of very on equal terms. So every time you play that song, it's to a different audience, and it's like a different song. So to me, it's like a tremendous insult to the audience to say it's boring, because you're basically saying that the audience are boring, because it's like a song where it like builds and builds and builds, and it's you know what I'm saying, to actually measure it just by how long it is actually very ironic, because
well, it's only the often the idea of entertainment is like quick, fast,
But you see, the thing is, it's boring if everything you do is the same. So it's all right. So if like a lot of our songs are 3 minutes long, then we go and do a 30-minute long song, and that's interesting. Whereas if every song we did was 30 minutes long, that would be boring. Or if every song we did was 3 minutes long, that would be boring. So it's all about variety and about actually fashioning things.
Is that a song where you do when you improvise and you sort of drift off?
Definitely. I mean, and one reason why we put that record on, The Beast Inside, is because some of the songs on it are could be quite commercially successful, and they're quite short. And
First side more than the second one.
But they could get played on the radio quite, and some of them are getting played on the radio quite a lot. And it's quite good when you're doing a record to do something that just makes no concessions and no compromise to what could get promoted. It's good to have a certain amount of the album where it's exactly how you recorded it, and it isn't contrived. It isn't trying to appeal to a market. It's just itself. It defines itself. And so that's why we did a song like that. And you could go through every other song on the album and point out ways in which it's different from every other song, and know why. I mean, I'm not going to, but you could, and it would all, it all makes sense and it all fits together as a whole.
Well, you have a song where somebody couldn't be bothered to sing, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Was that Dreams Are All?
Yeah. Well, it's just an instrumental, and it's just like our first album, Life, was saying before.
Yeah, but nobody ever says this is. People usually say this is an instrumental. People don't usually say I couldn't be bothered to sing on that one, so it became an instrumental.
No, that's not true. This song is
instrumental. It had a purpose. We wanted. There's a lot of parts on the album what I have like loads of guitar on it, and every 9 tracks have singing on. So one of the tracks says there's no guitar, there's no drums on it, and there's no vocals on it. It's not a case of nobody could be bothered doing anything. It's just a case of what fits. Where's it? I mean, in 4 albums' time, we might make a totally all electronic album, and in 6 albums' time, we might make a totally acoustic one where it's just all acoustic guitars and little patting drums or whatever. So it's just a case of we set a mood. It's very much an album of 10 individual songs what put together make an album. They all, even though each song's individual, they all follow on from each other. So it's not a case of it's still, although I'm not on the track, Tom's not on the track, and Craig's not on the track. The last track is still Inspiral Carpets, and it's every bit as me, him, and the other 3 as further away as where all 5 of us are playing away and hammering away.
You see, an album, it's a chance to give away a bit more of itself than like a single is, or what I mean, because you don't. That's what I'm saying, is that each track should be different, and it isn't like I can be bothered to sing on it, but there's enough colour and all that, enough spectrum in it to just not require singing. And what we've done on this album is the first album was like a garage album, and all the instruments were competing for volume level, but this album, there are like, each instrument has its own individual voice, so you'll hear bits where there are just drums on it, you'll hear bits where there's just guitar, and every single instrument has bits where it's foregrounded in the songs, and that's because we're letting the songs speak for themselves, and it's a development for us as a band. That's not to say that the next album might not be like thrash, it might be almost like thrash metal if that's what we wanted to do, and there's plenty of room to accommodate that. And we're not going to like hold back from doing that because what reviewers might say about it. We make the music we want to make, and we're in control of it, and no reviewer ever is. He's always hedged in by previous opinions by a group, or by his own personal view, or like the profile of the band, and we're not at all. We can do exactly what we want to do.
You basically like to surprise people.
We don't, not just for the element of surprise. We're not just there to shock people, but we're just there to do how we want to do it. And every time we release a record, we want people to basically be hearing us for the first time again, rather than just. There's a problem when a band just turns out the same kind of formula again and again and again. It just gets very boring. So it's interesting to stretch and pull things.
We never get complacent, really. I don't think about what we do.
Sorry,
we never get complacent about what we do. Never rest on our laurels.
And that's what I was saying. You have to assume the audience has a very short concentration span, which is why it's always good to recapture it all the time. Because then, when we've done 10 albums in 9 years' time or 8 years' time, people will look back at it and they'll see that it's. Right, they'll see that it's a landscape and where each album fits into this landscape with the Spiral Carpets, but at the moment all they're seeing is like a hill here, and a hill there. They don't see the bits how it joins up and makes sense, and we don't know ourselves because we've no idea of what our next record will sound like. So we're discovering it ourselves. We're all discovering. It's like I was saying before. And we're pretty self-confident as a band because we don't know what music we want to make because we're always exploring that.
but we know very much the way we want to go about doing it, and that's why we get accused of being businessmen when we're not at all. It's just that we don't want to have our vision or exploration controlled by the fact that we've done a shit deal, so we can't release anything because there's a court injunction against us like other bands have. I'm not commenting on them because excellent bands, you know, with other bands who are having problems, but we wouldn't want to get into that situation. We wouldn't want anything like that to control our creative output, you know.
Sorry, I lost you here.
I'm saying other bands are having problems with their record labels, so they can't release anything.
Stone Roses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not commenting on it because they're an excellent
right.
band, but what I'm saying is I'd much rather have what we release determined by what we do artistically than by the fact there's an injunction slapped on us. You know, it's much better to actually be freer and be able to have a vision of what you want to. You don't know where you're going to be in a year's time, but you know how you want to go about doing it. Because it's sad to have things like that determined by. You know, we all get on pretty well as people in the band. We all get on very well, and we let the music speak for itself. And you know, at the end of the day, you're much better off being ambiguous and having people not understanding you because you just want the music to speak for itself.
Do you think that this ambiguity leads to things like the sounds, readers' polls, when there's no mention whatsoever of you anywhere?
I don't know.
So the people don't know how to take you, and they just
it doesn't worry
go
me
for the
because
most
we don't
obvious
do,
band they can think of,
that's
like
why-
Ride or Happy Mondays.
Well, they're not obvious bands. All those bands are good bands. It just means that maybe people will, the vision that we have will be built up over 10 years rather than like 10 months. You know, that's all it means. It doesn't worry me. I don't measure my life out in coffee spoons. I don't measure my life out in sounds reviews, if you want.
No, but I suppose.
No, I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I know that is not. What,
No, I know you're not criticising us. I'm just saying
You know,
our
but-
vision is a lot.
But when you open it and it's we're not anywhere.
Reviews will
it's-
exist.
I
Whatever
suppose for about 2
opinion.
seconds. you
Whatever
think,
opinion. I mean, there will never be another
Okay.
sounds review because it's just gone
Yeah.
bust. So like, so I'd say the fact that we weren't in it and the fact that it's now gone bust, you know, it might say more about sounds than it does about
well,
music that we
it went
produce.
bust for other reasons.
No, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know, what I'm saying.
You
The
know,
thing about
it's
that
just-
is,
there was a lot of politics there, and there was a lot of
I think it's
charts,
on, it's on the
things.
cards. I think it's on the cards for a long time with sounds. I think its readership had dwindled a lot.
Which is why I might not have been in the review. That's
No,
why
no. Having said that, though, I mean, if we're top of the music polls next year, I won't receive any pleasure from it. And like, I haven't got any sadness from this. You know, we must be all right because we're doing, you know, we're doing all right. You know, so music's like records are here forever, but music papers are just they're interesting one day and then you lighting a fire with them the next day. You know.
It's true that, I mean, like, what we're very critical about what we do ourselves, and you know, we have a lot of ambitions for what we want to do with the music, and that's why we make the music we do. And reviews at the end of the day, you can either read them all or just ignore them, and whether they're praising you or whether they're criticising you really makes no difference, really, because the music's still the music. You know, like, even when people are praising you, you should really not bother with them, really. At the end of the day, it's that feeling that you evoke in people when they put your records on that counts. It's not the shape of my face or my cheekbones that matters, really. It's the emotions that they get out of the music that I'm really interested in.
Do you think this record generates more emotion than the previous one? I mean, this is quite moody.
Yeah, I don't think emotion.
It's not a garage record like the other
well,
was.
even garage music is very emotional. Like, what can I say? You know, some brilliant '60s songs like Garage Band, The Seeds, for example. They did a song I Can't Seem to Make Your Mind. I mean, that song was a very big influence when we first started off as a band 4 years ago. That's a very emotional song, you know. So I think the songs on Life are dead emotional. Like, look at This Is How It Feels, you know, a song for family. Even She Comes in the Fall is like an emotional song. So this song is probably, maybe we've channeled our emotions. Maybe our emotions, we can write them down more commercially now, and it might be more emotional, like when on the first hearing, you know, it might seem an emotional record. But I'm very proud of the album, as I'm very proud of Life, and I don't think it's any more emotional than the previous one, because when we write very like we think very heavily about the lyrics we write. Some people might not think that, but we concentrate heavily on them, and all the band has a say in whether if they feel fairly represented by these lyrics or not. And if everybody feels that they're not, they have a say in it, you know. So we feel very strongly about lyrics and about emotions. You know.
I think we're quite an intense group, really. I mean, we group is our life in a positive way. The group is like my life, and a lot of the things I do relate to what the band is doing. It's greater than the sum of the parts, and that's why we'll last, and that's why there's no more emotions on this album. It's just so that reflects very much the kind of experiences we've had and learnt from it in the last 18 months, and so it's not more emotion or less emotion. But like once you've made a record like Life, there's no point making another one like it, because you can just put it back on the record.
It seems to me you're always quite far ahead of what you seem. Like, the record that comes out is not what you're at now, is what you were at.
Well, actually, this one's quite nearer. Actually, this one's a lot nearer to when
than
it was
Life,
released.
because Life was like
Yeah,
supposed to
some
be
of
out
the
for
songs were like
ages.
4 years
and
old
then
as well.
Well, some of the songs were like 4 years old, not that there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, that's true. That's because we're totally captivated by what we're doing. We're totally into the world that we inhabit, To like a lot of journalists, it's just a haircut. Or the fact that we're supposed to be ugly, but that's just rubbish, In actual fact, we're totally captivated by what we do, and the band is our life, really. It's like, so that's why I'm not that worried about reviews, because the ultimate reviews are written by the people who listen to your record. And what I find satisfying as an artist is people getting into the music. Obviously, like, recognition is nice, but it's only one strand of it. It's a very irrelevant strand, really. It's what people think about your record afterwards. And one of the nice things about this album, one of the really nice things about The Beast Inside, is what people are saying about Life. And I've really felt this today, what people are actually saying, well, we don't know what The Beast Inside is like, because I've only heard it twice, but Life was like this. And it's nice. It's really nice to know that you've done this album, and it's perceived in a certain way, and it has like a life of its own, which is, what I'm saying? And that is one of the really nice things about getting onto the second record, is you can actually place Life there and say, well, that's what it was.
That was then.
But we don't know what this is, because we've only heard it twice. So it's kind of, it's good, because we can move on, and this is another stage.
So where are you now? Are you 4 months ahead, or?
Well, no, we're promoting this because we're so busy everywhere. We now have to divide our time up into, like, we have to say, right, we're going to write at this time, we're going to promote at this time. Like someone was saying to us, oh, you've been on the road in America, have you been writing songs on the bus? And we're just like saying, no, not at all, because we just observe while we're out, and it affects us as people. So we have to plan. We plan ahead, but we're very, very into this album, but we're just promoting it now. But we're always ahead. We're always 6 months ahead, 12 months ahead of what we're actually putting out, because that's what you have to be. It's much better to be ahead than to be behind. It's much better to be living.
Well, I suppose you your first album situation, you always have songs 4 years old or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't depart from and you have to put out.
But we actually didn't put like any of. We didn't put Joe on it. We didn't put Find Out Why on it. We did. There were a lot of things we could have done. We could just have cut those 12 inches onto it, and save money, save time. We didn't want to do that because we wanted to leave this landscape behind of us of what we were doing when we were a band that was that small, and then of what we were doing as a band when we were that big. Yeah. And we could have done a lot of things to have saved effort, saved money, but that's not what we're about. We're building a picture up of the band, and so that's why we always put. For instance, with Caravan, there's a track on Skidoo which isn't on the album, and that isn't because we want people just to buy the single and the album. That's because we had enough songs to actually put something exclusive on that record, so it makes that record special. It means there's 2 songs on it. And then when you get the album, there's a whole another wealth of songs. It means that rather than having Skidoo on it, you've got Niagara on it. Do you know what I mean? So we always, we're always very conscious of being a good band.
Do the lyrics sound better when you got sore throat?
What I was trying to make about Niagara.
I listened to it a couple of times and I couldn't see it.
The point I was trying to make about Niagara is I sing this note where I just hold the word Niagara, and you can just hear the vibrancy and the resonance of my voice, and I didn't try and hide it. I didn't try and make it clean. I just left it exactly as it is. And when we were talking to Chris, who produced the album, I said, on some of the tracks, I want to actually sound like I'm sat next to the person. I don't want loads of effects on the voice. I want to sound as if I'm actually talking to them through the speaker, and that's like one track where there's a massive reverb on the voice and melts into the distance, kind of electric reverb, really beautiful. It's called a water barrel reverb. If any producers out there want to steal it, that's what it's called. So when I say a sore throat, that's a bit of a simplification. What I'm really saying is that there's parts of my voice that aren't beautiful. They're just rough, but I'm perfectly happy to have that represented in the mix, so it sounds like I'm just sat next to someone.
So
that's what we've learned. We've learned that
yeah.
rather than pushing things up, you should sometimes pull things down and pull people into your music, rather than with a garage record it's very loud and quite spiky and it's kind of pushing out in that direction. So on some of these songs we're pulling people in, but rather than, you know what I mean? Which is, you know, that's one thing you learn. You know, that's why it's good to be on our second album, because I can't wait to get onto our next album, because you can then use things you've learned from that, and because I want all of our albums to be as contrastative as our personalities are in the band.
So you have been cleaning things here and there a bit more than...
Cleaning?
Because in the Select interview you're talking about people who sort of polish too much in their records. They sort of go.
We never over polish really. What we've just done this time is that if something isn't required in the mix,
I suppose you were talking relatively to the previous one, because the previous one was really.
I'm dead proud of the first one. Yeah. What I'm saying is that rather than taking stuff out on the mix, we haven't played it. So like, if we feel there shouldn't be drums on Niagara, if Craig feels there shouldn't be drums, he won't play drums apart from where he wants them. We haven't taken it out on a button. But that's true. But I mean, some of the things that people consider as limitations on the first album, in a couple of years' time, will then be considered its greatest strengths. You know, like the fact that it was recorded cheaply and it was recorded quickly. It was recorded because we had a desire to make the music and get the record out. People will love that. You know. Yeah. So the very things that were considered its limitations will then become its strengths. You know, when we are polishing more.
And this time you had obviously more time, more money, more.
It's not just to do with time and money. It's to do with expanding as a band. It's to do with putting the music first, and basically all of our life is based towards the music, you know, not just what's on record, but music as songs. And I mean, it isn't just. I say it isn't just to do with money. You know, and we could have spent an awful lot more on this LP. It still didn't cost. You know, we could have thrown a lot of money away on it, but we didn't, because it's the songs that matter. You know. It sounds a lot better, the actual. And I don't know if this is, some of the tapes that went out to reviewers were very, very badly mastered. They were very badly copied. So when the album comes out, there's a lot of colour on it. There's a lot of spectrum. Some stuff sounds very loud. Some of it's very quiet. But
well, no, there is. I can't remember which one of the song was. Where all of a sudden it goes really. Tonight. Yeah. It always suddenly goes really low, and
that's this quality I'm talking about.
Comes out again. So yeah, it is here.
Pulling people in rather than sometimes doing less. You know what I mean? It's just something you learn, and the next album we do might be thrash. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you can read a progression into what the next thing will be from this, because it will reflect the way we.
Do you think playing some of these songs live, you know, you lose the. You know, especially when you play a place like the G-Mex or something like that, you lose the sort of closeness.
No, perversely, some of the best times we've ever performed like This Is How It Feels is when there's like 9,000 people singing along, because somehow there's a paradox there, because you can be in a crowd full of people, but you're still basically alone. We come into the world alone and we go out of the world alone, and you can be in a crowd of 9,000 people, but you're basically still a little island in that crowd. So there's no problem. We're playing to like 40,000 people and playing a song like that, because basically we're all alone. We're individuals.
I'm not particularly interested in trying to define the so-called Manchester scene.
Yeah, man.
Why is it Manchester such a prolific place? I mean, other places go in waves.
It's very
Manchester
individual.
seems to continue.
Because it's a very individual city. It doesn't just not just regards to music, but in regards to people. There's a massive people there. Well, you know, like Clint's had a haircut like that since like about '84 or something. You know, he hasn't just adopted it in the last 6 months, and it's somewhere that thrives on individuality and a lot of different styles held in suspension all at one time. That's why there's been quite a good club culture there. Started off a bit recently, not just because Hacienda. The Hacienda is a side effect of this. It's opening up again in May, but like Hacienda is as much a result of this as a cause of it. This is the problem when people look at things afterwards. They always think, oh, the reason that Manchester's buzzing is because of the Hacienda. That's not true. The reason the Hacienda is in Manchester and exists is because Manchester was somewhere that had a lot of dichotomy and a lot of interesting things in it already, and Factory stayed in Manchester and built on what was already there. But what I'm saying, people always look at things and say, oh, Inspiral Carpets are successful because of the Manchester scene, when in actual fact we actually were responsible for a lot of it. You know what I'm saying? People just look at it as if you are the effect, and sometimes you're the cause.
I mean, I think you know, it's not the scene that makes you popular.
No.
I suppose in a way you have like more A&R people coming to Manchester to see bands because of other bands. So yeah, in that respect, yes, the scene helps you.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're no good, you're no good, and they won't.
The thing is with
sign
us is
you.
that we went to go and see the A&R men in London, and we
Yeah.
ended up signing for very little money compared to what we got offered. And
Yeah.
at the time when we were trying to sign, you still had to go to A&R men. Very soon it turned round, and A&R men started coming to you. But in actual fact, it's better going to see them, because you
Yeah.
get to see them. You know, we went around all these offices, and you just, you know, you see some of these polydors and holograms, and like they've just got massive offices, and you just think, well, where did they get the money from to build these? They got them off the artists, and you go to the Mute,
Yeah.
and down in the middle of sat behind a table that's made out of a door and 2 tea chests, and you think,
Yeah.
well, maybe this label is into just selling records.
Slightly
Not-
more.
you know, and they're not interested in having
Yeah.
a dead posh office. They're interested in having bands that they appreciate, and that's why they've got a table made out of a door and 2 tea chests. And for me, I'd much rather our music was considered as something which is different and something which is maybe a little kirsch, like a door with 2 tea chests underneath it, than something that's like really, really posh. Something that's really, you know, because you know, there's more honesty to a tea chest with a door on the top of it than there is to like a great big massive plush office that just takes things off people. You know.
Trying not to get again in the
That's all right.
in the journalists.
No, sorry, I
opinions
appreciate the job
thing.
you've got. You've got a job which
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
you know, I'm not.
No,
knocking it.
no, this is about the next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Try not to get into the. We don't care about what the journalists
Yeah.
say. It's the crowd that matters. I noticed that flicking through sounds and melody makers, whatever. I saw a comment on 808 State saying that they are the only band from Manchester that is sort of looking towards the future, towards the 90s.
Yeah.
And that is like implying that everybody else is sort of playing old stuff and sort of having old sounds warmed up, more or less.
Yeah.
Do you think that is partly true?
I think 808 State are an excellent band, but I think
I mean,
you
do
define-
you
I think
think,
you-
do you
I
think
think-
you are old-fashioned in a way?
not at all. No,
or you
not
think-
at all. You can tell from this record here
Yeah.
that a lot of it is very influenced by very disparate influences. It's not the Herman's Hermits. There are bands in the charts at the moment who sound
Yeah.
like Herman's Hermits. You know, like Milltown Brothers
Yes.
sound like Herman's Hermits.
There you go.
We've never sounded like Herman's Hermits. And
Can't
what?
stand them, to be honest.
Fair enough. But you know what I'm
Can't stand
saying?
the video, can't stand the guy
No,
who
that's
sings.
right.
And,
Well, it's Herman's Hermits, isn't it? But I'm
Yeah.
saying we're about the future, we're not about the past. I'm not even that interested in the past. I'm only interested in the past in the respect to which the present is defining it, like I say with life, the way the Beast Inside is defining life.
Yeah.
I find that interesting, but apart from that, I have no love of the past. And I'm dead brutal about it. I'm one of the first people to say, fuck it, we'll stop doing all those old songs, we'll just do new songs. And if people don't like it, that's tough. Because we've got to do what we want to do now. And we're the most brutal band as regards doing things for the present, and not doing things for the past. That's why we didn't put all the 12 inches on live. That's why we're looking forward. Not
You
looking
didn't do
back.
any 12 inches.
We did we'd done before we put out live. We had Plane Crash, Train Surfing, Joe, and Find Out Why. We had all 4 singles, and none of
Yeah.
that material found its way onto live.
Right.
So fuck it. Apart from maybe I think we re-recorded. So we didn't. None of it found its way on there.
Uh-huh.
And we basically
Is it
said,
all
fuck
out on mute?
No,
Or
the
that was
first 2
before?
singles aren't, because that's with the previous, with Steve, who was the original singer. We're not promoting anything with him on.
Yeah.
Because for 3 reasons. One reason is because it was great when it came out.
But
Before I
that was-
joined,
yeah,
it was great
that
when
was
it came
then,
out.
yeah.
The second reason is he wasn't particularly in agreement with us, and the third reason is I'm fucked if I'm promoting anything that I'm not on.
Yes.
No, we're fucked
Yeah,
if the
yeah, of
band was
course.
going.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying none of that was re-recorded and came out on the album.
Uh-huh.
We moved it, but the B-side didn't. So what I'm saying is we always live for the future, and we can't really be accused of looking back. We're like the only band amongst our contemporaries that's never reissued songs. We never reissue songs. We put them out once. We never look backwards. We always move forward.
And when you
We're
do,
always living in the future.
And I suppose you don't do remixes of...
We do remixes, but we
Well, you know,
we use
yeah.
imaginative people who are sympathetic to our music to remix.
Yeah.
We wouldn't ever get in, someone because they're flavour of the month. We very often anticipate people who we like who then go on to remix more famous people.
Uh-huh.
Like he's a bloke called Justin Roberts for the latest, for the Caravan remix.
Yeah.
And He's now gone on and done more stuff for other people, you know, and that's because we liked him as a DJ, and because we've never felt intimidated by dance music, and because we've never felt intimidated by it, we never felt the need to do a 180-degree turn artistically like the Sleep Dragons or Primal Scream have done. Now, the Stone Roses did it really well. Fool's Gold was like an excellent record because they added something to what was already there. But these bands like Primal Scream or Sleep Dragons